All right, it's been actually more than 25 minutes, but here's the first mold. I pulled the plastic little PVC piece out. See if you can see that. Brighten it up a little bit. Anyway, it's flexible, and I actually trimmed it, so I cut this out. You can kind of see what this stuff's like. It's just flexible silicone material, and it's pretty easy to trim. Wow, that's super dark on that foil. So I just cut that away. I also cut it a little bit shallower just because I realized it was too deep. Doesn't really matter because I'm just experimenting with this. The other thing I noticed is when I put the PVC piece in, I didn't level it, so it was not even with the bottom, so it's a little bit off. You can't really see it on the video. The other thing I noticed is I sanded the bottom of that PVC, and that little sanding marks, even though I use 250 grit, you can see it's actually a rough surface on the base of the mold. That might be a problem because I don't want the clear, I want the clear resin to be as clear as possible. I gotta see through it, that's the whole point. So if those scratch marks still come through and just make it opaque, that's not gonna be good. I might have to, I did buy some 1000 grit sandpaper here, and I could use this and really sand it smooth if I need to, sand the PVC piece smooth. So I made a second mold, and it is just in the process of setting. And once that's set, then I'll take that out. It's a little bit smaller. I think it's a little bit easier to use. And this time I tried to get it so that at least the PVC is level with the surface. And and the other thing to do with this, I was reading the instruction on this clear casting epoxy and the silicone putty. The putty requires an oven cure for 25 minutes, or actually 30 minutes, or you have to let it sit for 24 hours. I'm not going to do that, so we're going to heat cure it. I've got the oven heating up. That's why the aluminum foil's here. I'll put the both of these molds on there and bake it at 350 for 30 minutes, and then I'll be ready to mix up the casting epoxy, and we'll see how it goes from there. All right. Okay, it's been half an hour, and these are actually longer than that because it was baking for half an hour, and then I did let them cool off. So here's the molds as they exist. They're still flexible, so that's interesting. I didn't know what would happen after they bake in the oven, but I guess that maybe cooks the moisture out, and you need that for this clear casting epoxy. The other thing I did was try to measure how much epoxy it's going to take, and I don't know if you can see, but it's way less than an ounce, and that's to fill both of these molds with just water. This was just some water to see. So if I fill this one up so it's about level with the surface, top part there, and then this one with about the same amount, that's how much I need. So the tricky part is how exactly am I going to measure out two equal parts of the epoxy. There's the hardener, and then there's the just the resin itself. So somehow I got to figure that out. I used this little eyedropper. This is a plastic bottle from a craft store, and I counted out about 22 fills up to the black line on the eyedropper, so that would be 11 each for the resin and the hardener. So maybe I'll try to get the water out of here, and we'll just try that and see how it goes. The other thing I'm going to do too, I actually filled up a second bottle of eyedropper. So I took the dye. This is not the same brand, and I hope it just works. This is that fiber dye. There is EasyCast dye, but it wasn't available at the craft store. So we're gonna try this and see what happens. But I put some of this, this is the purple dye. I don't know if you can see it in the light. Anyway, this is the purple dye, and I put it in this eyedropper so I can just drop like one, or maybe, I don't know, I don't want to overdo it, just a few drops into the resin itself, and then we'll stir that all up and pour it in the molds and let it cure for 24 hours. All right, be right back, and we'll fill these, or get the resin and hardener mixed together and go from there. All right, so obvious things just by darn kitchen scale. This is a pain in the ass. And trying to remember what you counted to is just like not workable. So get a kitchen scale, weigh equal parts of this stuff, and that's just going to be way, way, way easier. This is definitely not an easy way to do it. But what I'm going to do is grab another mixing stick here and mix this up. And it says basically get your mold ready, mix it for a minute, and then it needs to be poured into another cup and mixed further with a new stir stick. So we'll see how this works out. Let's see, blah, 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 must be mixed, mix the resin together for 2 full minutes. So I'm gonna mix it for 2 minutes, and then we'll add some of this dye and then pour it in the next cup and keep mixing it and see how that works out. If it's not going to work, then I might try another batch with just more, or maybe I'll come back with a kitchen scale. We'll see what happens. All right, so that's been about 2 minutes. I'm going to pour this into the next container here, and we'll add some of the dye, and then we'll keep stirring and then pour this into the mold and just see what happens. Scrape this out here. Need as much out of here as I can get so we can fill these molds up properly. There we go. Okay, there's that. Gonna get a new stir stick here, and I have no idea how much dye to put in here, so we'll just try something out and see what happens. I'm gonna put in like just a drop or 2 maybe. See that? Let's try 2 drops, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, I don't know if you can see very well. It's a very slight purple hue. That's not bad. I'm actually gonna try another dropper, and just maybe I'll do 2 drops more just to go a little bit darker for the first run here. So that's 4 drops of dye altogether into less than an ounce of resin, or epoxy resin. Mix that up. That looks pretty nice. I'm just gonna stir that up, and we're just gonna pour it in and see what happens. See that okay? Hold that up to the light. All right, let's pour it into our molds. Let's save some for this other one. Let's see if we can get all this out of here enough to just coat the bottom of this other one with the loss we've had with the resin stuck on the side of the stirring container here. It's not quite enough to fill these the way I would like to, but I think that's okay for what we want to do here. All right, well, one thing that's interesting, is, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera, but if I move in close here, you can actually see that some of this is actually bubbling up. It's supposed to get rid of its own bubbles by just letting it sit, so you don't have bubbles in your final cure. It takes 24 hours. I did not put mold release in here, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can get this out of here after. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it bubbling on the surface there. And so we'll just let this sit. The good thing is it doesn't stink at all. There's no smell. I just wore gloves because it's pretty nasty stuff to get on your hands. And these are not filled all the way that I would like to do. Next time, you know, add some more. But it's enough to just have a go at it, and I can hold up an LED light on the side and see if that purple even comes through. All right.